So yeah, we are here to talk about creating and creating change, innovating. And you are, I mean, I meet you every day when I check my Nest account and look at all these beautiful tech that makes life a little bit easier.
Well, we hope at least.
So you're an innovator, you're a creator. So how did that become your thing to invent stuff?
Well, it first started when I was a little boy, when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, with my grandfather, and he helped me understand how to fix stuff and understand how the world works and touch things and repair things and and just imagine the world. And he was like, look, the world around us was all built by humans. It was all imagined and designed and built by humans, for better or for worse. And we can fix it, we can change it, we can improve it, and we can make the future. And so getting hands-on and touching things and understanding that stuff, understanding atoms, because there were no real bits when I was growing up, right? Bits didn't really exist. So it was all atoms, and you touch those atoms every day. And then ultimately over time, then bits showed up when I was when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And so then I started understanding bits, and then over time understanding bits plus atoms and where it goes from there. So literally, it all started with just being curious and having a mentor in my grandfather to show me how to deconstruct the world and make it not so black box magical looking, but going, hey, see, it's not so hard. It's pretty simple. Just, get in there and do stuff and learn. And add fail as well.
Yeah, not just to accept standards, right? Just to open the hood and say, oh, I could actually change things. I don't have to accept as they are.
Absolutely. One of my first projects ever that I did for me, besides creating birdhouses and everything else, but it was like, I literally took an alarm clock radio from the late 70s. And I loved listening to music, but it always woke up everybody in the house because I was listening to it late at night. So I went and hacked it, and I hacked in a headphone jack so I could have my own headphones. It was like my early iPod, I guess you could say, in 1979. And you're like, oh my God, I made something better. I made it just like I wanted. And that was, and you do this all the time, it's so empowering when you can take something, shape it, mold it to what you want. Is just fabulous. And that's where you get hooked, or that's where at least I got hooked in this kind of thing.
It's very fortunate that somebody showed you the door so early on, that you actually came to this planet more or less with the idea that you can change it, that you actually have the power to reimagine what for others looks like a perfect system, something untouchable, something that they could never ever change, right? And I think that's the big difference right now. Some people dare to establish things, others just accept them.
They're either they accept them or they feel hopeless that there's nothing they can do to change them, right? So it's, can you change the world? Do I have to live with it as is? Or am I just hopeless that it's never going to change because we've been wishing for so long that we need, a lot of us have seen the need for change for 1, 2, 3 decades. And finally we're here, and so I think that hopelessness is where we also have to touch on as well.
Be encouraged by it. Take all these challenges, these like drastic crises that we are confronted with as an invitation, as a door actually to look at what your place could be, right? And hey, what are your tools? I mean, you, of course, at the beginning, you learned from your grandfather and you got probably the first like instruments in your hand and you just did whatever you could. But then what were your tools to become an entrepreneur, to turn, I would say, the page from exploring into actually establishing tech product solutions, visions?
Well, that's a great question. And so for me, really, it was about knowledge and learning. And so the tool is being curious, and then satisfying that curiosity with knowledge, either by talking to people or reading things. And it really blossomed. I had very limited resources to learn from in the late 80s and early 90s until the internet came, right? And then the explosion of knowledge and finding the geekiest of geeks in all of these little things that I like to learn about, or I didn't even know about, and I learned from them. And watching now YouTube videos, you know, the pandemic has really made me change my way of looking at the world in terms of like, not just looking at the world, but also how I learn from the world, like in YouTube videos, like the amazing amount of experts out there. And so for me, it's always been curiosity combined with information and learning from others, combined with doing, and really doing, then failing, and then learning, right? So it's kind of this whole thing, and it's just utter curiosity, all wrapped up into pain. What is painful? What do I see in the world that's painful? And I go, okay, that's painful. Why is it painful? And always feeling it, and then trying to deconstruct and going, how would I change it? How would I make it better? What technology has changed to allow us to reimagine these, what seemed to be solutions at the time, turned out to be problems today? How can we reimagine it given a new palette of technologies, of new ways of thinking, to then morph that thing into something that is a painkiller instead of a pain giver?
We had been like very much in love with ourselves for the last 50 years and felt like, oh my God, we are so amazing, right? We can invent everything. We are improving nature. We decipher it. We can actually speak. These dolphins can't. So just because we don't get their language doesn't per se mean they don't speak, but still.
Exactly.
We felt superior. And suddenly we wake up out of this like wet dream and we're like, oops, we probably broke systems that we didn't really understand.
I'm sure we broke systems we don't understand because we really had limited knowledge. I look at it this way. I look at the human race in a way, when we got technology, it was like how we get technology when we're a teenager. We can do anything with it. We apply it to everything, and we think we're the masters of the universe when we're teenagers, right? We think we're powerful and the adults don't know any better. We know the best, and da-da-da. So we had this technological age of 50, 60 years where we're like, we can apply the atom and we can split the atom. We can make chemicals into whatever it is. And we are going to be masters of the universe. And we were kind of teenagers. Now we've woken up and we're, wait a second, this is about societies. This is about our planet and about how our grandkids are going to live and all of these things. And we got to think very differently and stop being this, you know, brash teenager and single person. And now we got to really live in a community and apply these things properly. And so I think that's where we're starting to finally grow up and going, oh, we have to clean up our rooms, and we have to eat properly, and we have to do all of these things, you know, because we're becoming adults. And Jesus Christ, like, it's like that reality of, I got to pick a career, you know, it's like, I got to pick, what am I going to do? Well, now we got to actually live on this planet together in a holistic way that preserves it for generations to come. And I think we're finally getting that wake-up call that we as a society, at least the first world societies, have been like fat, dumb, and happy for too long, masters of the universe, so to speak.
I feel that for a very long time, especially I'm from Europe, right? There was a strong border between being an entrepreneur, being a businessman. Oh, I'm a businessman. I'm a businesswoman. And being a creative, being an artist. There was a very synthetic division between these two areas. And you were either one or the other. But when you're looking,
I'd like to add a third. I'd like to add a third, which is an academic.
Oh, yes. Okay, we're going
right.
Yes,
so there's an
that.
Academic, right, and then there's creativity, and then there's business, and they were three different, very different things, and they don't overlap.
No,
right?
And exactly, because for some money was dirty, for the others creatives are crazy, and again another is above everything. So the question that I have is, when you're looking at the big corporations, I mean, when you're looking at the big industry, there was always somebody who created something at the beginning. Somebody had an idea.
And they started small.
They started in the garage or somewhere, or they just experimented and they put some ethanol into a machine and suddenly became an automobile. So why do you think we separate, or society separated these different skill sets, these different nearly clusters in society so much?
I think it goes back to human nature, and it's a great question. I think people they have safety in numbers. And when they have safety in numbers, they create their own languages to make them feel special and different. And so there's the world of design language and the world of business language and academia, right? Each of these have their own kind of nomenclatures and how they talk, because they're trying to
Special
separate
language,
themselves
secret
out,
language.
right? Exactly. Just like in high school or in college, like you're all trying to find your tribe.
Your gang.
Right, your tribe, and you're saying, okay, this is us, and we have our signs, and our gang signs or whatever it is. And so so we were able to create these identities, these very strong identities, and they're not us, and but we're learning is very quickly that we have similar languages. It might be different nomenclatures, but it's similar languages of how we talk. And that, frankly, to make the best of everything is we have to come together and bring the best minds from all of those areas, and also have empathy for the other ones and be curious about those other areas to be able to come up with a circular, holistic solution to a problem. Not just, oh, this is design for design's sake, and it's form over function, or business over design, or what you mean. I think we all have to understand we have our identity, but we need others to really be able to create in a circular way, because we need all of these different perspectives to come together to design a new system. Industrial Revolution 2.0, because 1.0 was really about those, those clicks, as you can say.
It's about creating a new economy, because all these environmental issues we are facing today, they are caused by business. I mean, you can go further and go and say, oh my God, capitalism, but I don't want to even go there. I'm a product of capitalism. All my tools, all my opportunities
we all
I
are,
have, because I wouldn't be able to do anything without that system. So just staying and accepting that framework, because we are not able to change that within the next 10 years, probably don't even want to change it. So let's say the next 10 years, we got to solve, and it's probably more than 10 years, but still we are all talking about, actually technically it's 9 years, because we're all speaking about 2030.
2030.
And to be frank, the last 9 years,
it's 8.5 actually.
Yeah, here we go. So it's an abstract goal, right? In 9 years, in 8.5 years, in 7 years, in 5 years, whatever years there are left until we reached a point of no return, how do we use that time? How do we use that time to truly solve the biggest environmental issues that we are facing today?
Oh, geez, that's a huge
We can start
question.
with plastic, Tony.
We can start with plastic, sure. Well, I think it's going to take all of us thinking creatively and breaking the norms, but for sure, for plastics, for sure. But look, what the EU is already imposing just as of last week, which is border taxes for countries who don't have sound environmental policies. They're going to get taxed, for importing goods into a region that has good environmental policies. Got to get rid of that light. And so as far as I'm concerned, we got to have government to actually back us. But we can't just rely on the government to do it. We as creatives have to design the future and show people the future. And it's great that we can turn, like what you guys are doing at Parley, we can turn trash into treasure, right? And it can't be just practical things. It has to be emotional too. And so all the work that we try to do, and what I see you guys trying to do, is we try to make an emotional element to the designs we make, to help move people and nudge people in the right direction, so they don't feel like they're getting a second-rate product or something that's recycled, because that sounds like it's bad. It doesn't sound like it's new and virgin.
It was molded that way. Recycling was always meant to be this pseudo solution. It was never meant to be more attractive than the virgin, the original material, right? I mean, it's a full-on strategy. I mean,
exactly.
No.
And so it was always like, we're always going to keep making new, and you'll figure out what to do with the old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like, come on, guys. You can't put those externalities on the individuals to take care of. The companies have to be a part of this, and that's what's so great about this, like this EU carbon tax, border tax, is it's making the companies really doing it. I think you just saw what happened in Maine last week. That was huge, which is charging companies who create non-reusable, disposable plastic waste, and charging them to figure it out. And people are like, oh, the prices are going to rise because, but I'm like, yes, the prices might rise for consumers, but then those companies that innovate and figure out ways to reduce, recycle, reuse, or eliminate are going to have lower cost of goods. And so it's going to drive the innovation cycle to figure out other ways to make it really great for the consumer as well. But until we have those kinds of levers in place and those kinds of forcing functions, people will just keep greenwashing all day long. And there's a few of us out there who want to do the right thing, but there's a lot of people who need to be pushed to do the right thing.
Exactly. There are few that they're front runners, they're eco-innovators, they're champions. They're saying, you know what? I'm going to actually define my own existence here, even my brand. I'm going to define that by being an innovator and by taking responsibility, by leading. And then there are tons of others that see an opportunity and just like plug in wherever they can. And I think there is really this duality between key players in the private sector taking the lead, but then governments using that as an encouragement, but also as a reasoning towards their own industry players to say, you know what, if they can do it, you can do it as well.
Exactly. That's what's so great is someone has to set the example of don't, everybody wants to talk. This is a problem. Exactly. This is a problem. This is a problem. Well, we're doing it. We're showing you it can be done. It's not as hard as these guys are making it out to do because they're just protectionists. Yeah. Look, it's happening. And then, as you say, we're the example that governments can point to, go, yes, 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 more of that. Why can't we have more of that?
Yeah,
it's great.
And they need that because they're often not equipped with knowledge enough that they can actually really survive these debates that they're having with the private sector. They don't want to hurt the economy. And then on the other hand, if you deliver them solutions on a silver platter and you show actually it's an economic benefit, these companies are striving by investing into eco-innovation. It's good for their business. It's actually good for everybody. And you can be proud if you're solving problems and on top of that making money, which, to be honest, I'm getting attacked for all the time for like combining business with environmental solutions, which is weird, but it's happening nonstop.
I understand. People are like, when I sit there and talk about the plastic problem on Twitter or whatever, they're like, he must be invested in all of these companies. And there's got to be it's like, no, I'm just trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? It's like, stop penalizing us. And now if you want to think that, that cynically about it, okay, fine. But all of us, it's not going to deter me at all. It's like, get on board, you'll come around to it. Look at all the people who were saying Tesla sucks and, and blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants the motor noise and they want to feel the power.
Yeah. I'm from Germany. Now, they believed that for too long, trust me.
Well, right, Dieselgate. Yeah, so it's like, pull your head out of the sand. So luckily we have enough of these examples and things are moving the right way that people and companies are going to understand. It's not going to just be good for their business. It's going to be an imperative to their business because if they don't, they are going to die. We have now set in motion the way that if you don't keep up, your business will die. Just like if you don't treat your employees right, if you don't treat your suppliers right, sooner or later, you're going to end up, people are not going to accept it. They're going to be like, no, I'm going to go buy from XYZ brand. And so these things, it's an imperative. If you want to keep your company alive and healthy, you're going to have to do these things. It's just as simple as like, do you have healthcare or not?
I like this conversation a lot because of one specific reason on top of what we're discussing here now is like, you're a driver, a champion of the digital revolution, right? From converting from analog to digital. And I believe that we are again at this exactly moment where we're saying, oh, we're driving from an old exploitative business model, from an old way of using harmful and exploitative materials to a new time, which is a material revolution. So in a very, very short time from now, people will simply have the knowledge and the access to analyze what they're buying into, and they will not accept it anymore. They will not buy a product where they know a little child in Bangladesh was paid a meal to work the week. It's not okay because
there'll be supply chain transparency. Well, you'll see where everything is coming from, who's benefiting, who's the middleman, all along the way, and it's going to be easy to see. And so I fully agree. But the other thing that digital revolution brings is not just that transparency. It's allowing us, with AI and different things, I don't know if you saw some of the AI tools that are coming out now, we can design new systems, new chemical systems, new ways to make sure that we're using green chemistry, that we have great life cycle analysis, because these tools, just like we had CAD to design cars and products and everything, now we're going to have that next generation CAD that designs systems. Right, computer-aided design of systems.
That solves the complexity without these animosities that we humans have. If we say, oh, we can't think so far, this is actually not okay, nobody will allow that. That's what a machine doesn't do. I mean, it's just going straight for the answer. And that's a very
And so we'll be doing generative system design. Today we're doing generative product design or part design. We're going to be doing generative system design. And we're going to see all kinds of systems we never dreamed of. And we're going to start to be able to analyze and figure this out. And we're just on the cusp of this now. And it's so amazing because we can do systems, materials, and chemicals, and we can understand how they infect or affect the environment. It's wonderful, because no longer can people just say, oh, I didn't know about that externality. It's going to be right there in front of them.
What's the vision that drives you, Tony? If you're looking at like whatever year it is, it will not be 2030. We're going to be in a very stressful situation in 2030, but let's say 2045 or 20, you know what, let's say 1 year in the future, a point in the future. What's the perfect outcome? What can we achieve? What should we achieve? What's the aim we should have? We could have what you have.
Well, I'm looking at 2035 to 2040. Okay. So all of our investments are in that range, because it really takes 10 to 15 years to make some substantial change into a system. Now it could be a little slower, a little faster, depending on government and everything else. So I'm really looking in that kind of time frame for how we invest in the companies we work with. And so when I look at all of the different business plans that I'm seeing and new investments to be made, we're talking about incredible changes at every single layer of the value chain, at every single layer of the product chain, and people are investing. And this is not just wild hair crazy people. We're talking big money, billions of dollars going into
moving
this.
now.
And finally addressing, and it's everywhere. It's in ag, it's in so in agriculture, aquaculture, it's in medicines, it's in building materials, it's in computing as well. It's in transportation. It's in mining. I can't believe how much we're doing, how much trash to treasure I'm seeing in all kinds of other things. How we're getting rid of some of these extractive businesses and going to the landfills and getting things out, e-waste. So all of these things that we dreamt of, these things are becoming reality faster than you can imagine. And maybe that those 15 years might be 8 or 9 years. It could be even faster, because so many people are screaming for this now. And we're seeing the climate change events happening.
Here's the thing,
almost every other day now.
It's suddenly we got the alerts. We're going to actually see it. It's not anymore a theory. It's a fact. And if you're a diver, you put your head underwater, you're seeing it for a while. That life is diminished. It's disappearing, right? But now it's in the media. People like that don't have the luxury to be in nature and compare it. They now see it actually happening in front of their eyes, even if they live in big cities.
Exactly. And it's not just the media. Almost many people know somebody who was affected by it. Like it's a personal connection or two away, because it's happening everywhere. So when it becomes personal, it was like COVID at the beginning. I don't know anybody who has COVID. What do you mean? It's not coming for me. And then all of a sudden it's in your backyard, like, oh shit, I got to do something. Right. And so that's exactly what's happening. And, I hate to say it, but yeah, of course we did this, and the climate events are happening more fiercely and faster than we thought. And you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad it is, because it's forcing it. It's pushing it right in our face.
Say that. You know what? For 9 years now, I'm doing this with Parley, and it was so harsh, because people simply look at your face and they're like, yeah, right. You have the luxury to think about these future problems. I have to actually earn the money, and I have to buy my house, and I have to do this, and my boat needs a new paint. And now everybody's like, oh, wow, that went fast. And it's very bad to say it, but it's a good thing for the movement, because now we know we have to act. There is no excuse anymore.
It's a great thing. And, I went on stage in China saying, thank you, China, multiple times about when they stopped taking plastic waste.
Yeah, the green wall.
When they stopped, I said, thank you, China. You don't know what you just did. Thank you. We need more of those kinds of things where it's like, you keep your trash inside of your borders. And then you start to see, and then we see the climate events and people go, what are we going to do? We got to do something about it. So we need more of these kinds of like big step function events, and it's going to make us, you know, run like crazy. And there's a lot of us who've been working on it. They're going to finally listen and engage and actually take it seriously instead of greenwash it, you know, and that's that's wonderful.
It should not be a cause. It should be a project that we're managing here, a project of survival. And not like, oh my God, that's a good thing, I'm giving back. I don't take it in the first place. Just plan your business in the right way, plan your life in the right way. Actually, just do it exactly now. So question for you, Tony. How important is collaboration for you in everything you do?
It's everything. It's absolutely everything, whether that's on the design side, whether it's on the manufacturing side, on the circularity side, finance side. You need to collaborate. And now today, you're seeing ideas. We're taking biological ideas and applying them to electronic ideas. We're taking electronic ideas and applying them to agricultural ideas. Like there's a cross-pollination of all of these things, of all the clicks, right, that we talked about. And they have to work together because the IT improves something, you know, the electronics or software improves something in agriculture. But we can take that same agriculture model and improve something in medicine. So for all of these things, for me, that is absolutely essential because that's how we get to the system methodology mentality that we need to have. And so we need more collaboration, not less, but it needs to be streamlined and all this stuff. We can't have these big, you know, committees because we know what happens in committees. It's like, you know, an elephant orgy. Nothing really happens.
So question, we were so scared to fail in the past. Everything was driven on like, oh my God, I must succeed. I must invent something that is scalable, that makes a lot of money. But now we're sitting in a situation where we can actually redesign, redefine a lot of materials, a lot of technologies, right? Because there's an urgency to do that. But we're exactly the same moment again, where when you are there to invent something new, and be it by growing it and using nature, when is something a true success and how do we measure success? Is it only fiscal success, or is there a new criteria where we say, you know what, this is only successful if it actually solves a problem? And who will make the decision over these things? Or are we just like so drunken again, we're just seeing this as a huge opportunity and we're just inventing a lot of crap where in 20 years we're sitting there and we say, oh my God, we just destroyed the next level. We just destroyed the cells. We programmed life now in a way that it just eats up everything.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And I think the way that we're going to do, we're seeing this happen now is, it's not just about that revenue line and how fast the revenue line grows. When we start adding all the externalities from the life cycle analysis of what our output is, what kind of trash we're making either during the production cycle or after the customer experience is over. And if we start pricing all of those things in, then you're going to start to see all those metrics not just be about revenue, but it's all these other things that become unit economics in the cost of goods sold. Right? Because you're going to price in those externalities in at the beginning, and your gross margins will be lower and your net margins will be lower. So yeah, maybe revenue is still the top line, but we're going to have a lot more line items of things that we're paying for in the creation of this product. Yeah, it's the true cost of things, not just the cost of things that you touch, but all the things that went into it, the full embodied cost of whether we're digging up something.
Imagine this. You invent this crazy material. It can replace plastic, every kind of polymers, every 1,000 types, 7 official. And then you realize at some point, it will decompose, it did all these nice things, biodegrade, whatever. It does it even in the sunlight. You just throw it out of the window and it just in the air vaporizes, and this is amazing. You just invented a substitute. But then you realize at some point, you don't really know. You don't 100% know what it does at the end. We don't know, you know what I mean?
We never know anything.
Would you still move forward? And that's the big question I ask myself, you know?
All we can do is address the known, the unknown knowns, and go and figure those things out and do the best we possibly can. We knew in the 70s and 80s and whatever, when they were off-gassing things, we already knew the science and we already knew they were causing a problem. If you already know today that you're causing a problem, yeah, you should you should, but if you
Turn
don't
around.
know, and you gotta try, because it's do, fail, learn.
It's a pivoting process. It's not a clean line.
Exactly. And we're going to have all of it. There's going to be continual transformation, and we're going to learn more, and we're going to change more. But we've been locked into the old way of doing things for a long time, and we knew it wasn't working. Now we have to get into this iterative cycle of finding the optimal, not the local maximum, but the global maximum for these things. And some is going to require, in some cases, everyone's like looking for magical material or whatever. We're going to also have to change the way we live. It can't just be, we're going to change everything else, and we're going to
match everything to our lifestyle and be like, oh, I want abundance of everything. I just use whenever I want. I just discard whenever I want.
Throw it away, blah, blah. Like, come on, that's not realistic. That's again, that teenager talking.
Yeah. You touched on failure. You touched on, hey, innovation means also like wins and failing and wins and failing. And it's this process. People are so scared to fail. In my eyes, failure is a big friend of a creator, right? I mean, what's your relationship to failure?
So I failed many, many times. And you have that thing in your pit of your stomach. It's about the resiliency once you've failed to pick yourself up and go again. And what happens for most people is they're programmed at too early of an age that failure is bad, because if you fail in school, it's the end. Like, you can't get in the best school, you can't get the best job, you can't blah, blah, you're not going to get anywhere in this world if you fail. But the thing is, as soon as you come out of school, the only way you get somewhere in the world is by doing and failing up. But make sure you're learning and not repeating the same mistakes, right? And so I hate our educational system for exactly that reason. We got to teach more kids to try things and learn through failure. Exactly. Try, keep trying, because you didn't learn to walk by just saying, I'm going to walk, and you learned to walk. You failed thousands of times before you learned to walk. Same thing with language. We got to treat that for all the things we do and use tools to help us so we can learn from them, to make sure any externalities, anything that we're creating, if it has side effects, after effects, whatever they are, that we also acknowledge those and make sure we factor them in and try to design them out. So absolutely, but we can't just go around breaking things either, that fail fast and break things thing. That you can't do either. You can't go breaking things, even in the digital world we've learned. So we can't do that, biological world, material world, wherever. We can't just break things fast.
Yeah, got to be reflected about what you're actually causing. What scares you? Is there something where you think, oh my God, I don't tell anybody, and you never did, or you probably do, but what is the thing that scares you?
What scares me, to tell you the truth,
yeah,
is our degenerating educational systems in the world. Because without better education and better science-based education, you and I can only do so much. And it's not like we're spring chickens, right? We need more and more generations to think circularity. We need to think of life cycle analysis, how to do well and make sure they look at all of the things that could be caused by what they're creating. We need generations to think that way. And if we don't have a stable and good education system that's revolutionized for the problems that we have, we're not going to get there, because it's going to take, this is a multi-generational problem that lasts for forever. Like, people are like, we get to 2050 and we make it, yay, we can go back to the old way. No.
No, it's a totally, we need a new mindset there. And yes, kids, to be honest, they are either, and they're very honest, I speak to a lot of kids, and they are in despair often. They feel like totally overwhelmed, and they're like, oh my God, how can I change these things? And all these points that we touched on, like being encouraged, trusting in your own ideas, actually trusting your instincts, and just opening the hood and start experimenting is something they don't learn. It's actually the opposite what they learn. They learn that they're growing up in a system that is perfectionized. Everything has an interface, everything has a logo, everything looks perfect, everybody has a PR agent. I mean, that is the world we're in, right? And
right, absolutely.
And I think to kind of
the Instagram world, everything looks perfect.
Everything's polished up. Yeah, it's like nothing is real anymore. Everything is perfectionized when it comes to that. And I think to unlearn that perfectionism and say, you know what, fail, go for it, play, believe in your dreams. That is, I think, the biggest message.
I absolutely believe we have to play, we have to have fun with this, and we have to understand the broader circularity of everything you play with, so you can get a systems mentality, so that you don't just get in that click like we were talking about at the beginning. So yes,
understand
absolutely.
the context. You are like, understand that you're embedded. You're actually causing something, and you're also like experiencing what others cause. There is a connectivity and interconnectivity between everything.
Exactly. And so that's really, really important. And I hope, I hope we're training our kids. I know I'm trying to do my part of training our kids to see this in a great way. That's why we live in Bali. We saw, went to the green. So, nice. But they also lived with, locals, and they saw what the trash and the how they lived, and they were happy, even though they were generating plastic waste, because the third world or the first world brought it to them, which is a whole different story. But my point is by getting out and being empathetic and seeing people around the world and not just where you live, because we're very, very lucky for how we grew up. And, but if you go to other places in the world, you see these problems, and you see the problems that we foist on them because we're bringing technology to them and they don't know how to deal with it. And how to recycle or whatever.
It's alien matter. It's just intrudes. It's a technology they didn't invent, and they are not equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, they don't understand it. So when you get this kind of empathy, and you have more global citizens and people who can talk about different functions and think about these things, those are the type of people we need in the future. And to me, that's a different education system, and it's a different, apprenticeship system that needs to be created to make sure that we built this in for generations to come.
And empathy means to connect with life. Yeah, it means to connect with other living beings. It connects even with animals that speak a different language and see that they're living beings.
Absolutely. You talked about perfection. You know how everything looks perfect now and everything. If we look at biology and biological processes, it's imperfectly perfect. So, not every single plant looks exactly the same, but it is perfect in its own way. And we're going to have to get used to a lot of products that they all look similar, but they are slightly different. They're not exactly perfect and everything. And we have to embrace that and go, that's how the world is, because we're going to have to embrace more and more biology in the things that we create. We have to use biology to help us, because that's what doesn't work if you do it right, works synergistically with the environment, as opposed to against it when we do everything chemically or something where it's all perfect, but nature can't adapt.
There's no interface. There's no way to get it back. There's actually no way to even deal with it in a good way, at least not in a short period of time. Biofabrication, and you're pointing it out, green chemistry, looking at nature, actually learning from nature. And I think there was a lot of arrogance in the human species, looking towards nature as something old, something
right.
granted. And come on, this is high tech. I mean, this is a high tech we are not even able to copy at this point.
I think we decided that because it was so foreign, biology and everything was so foreign,
and we
are only going to focus on the thing that we can control. We're going to focus on the thing we control, and all this other stuff, because we don't understand it. This is our clique, and we're going to make this work against all of that. And it's like, oh my God, there's so much to learn outside of what we do with outside of what we do every day. The biomimicry, the amount of enzymes, the amount of all kinds of different things we can take from nature and harness. And as long as we keep them in that biochemical kind of world, my God, it's so powerful and actually so cheap too, if you do it right. And so we are just at the tip of the iceberg of what's to come as we move from industrial revolution to biological industrial revolution, as far as I'm concerned.
When you're looking at materials, most of the people that I know in this material innovation space, they're trying to mimic what they know or copy what we had and live up to the specs that the supply chains are trained.
Oh God, yeah.
Plastic has to be this, we have to match it exactly. And I think there is a very big ignorance towards innovation, really, where a material could have different attributes. It probably loses some of the old specs, but it can gain new attributes. It can have new functionality. It can actually bring new features that in nature are normal, but for us humans in an object is unknown. Why would a material not react? Why would a material not do something actively when the circumstances asks for it, or give me something. Why would this t-shirt not see when I'm tired and inject something so I'm waking up? Why would it not help me to get asleep? I mean, I think the functionality of materials, this idea of this is just an object, we're lacking fantasy there, lacking imagination. I think there is a lot where we not only fighting environmental issues, we're actually looking into the depth of secrecy of all these like mysteries of nature that can actually enhance products that we're making in the future in a totally different way. And they might look different, and they might look uneven, and they might have individual character when you look at them, but they actually could come with a total next level of functionality.
Well, and I think they totally will. Look at the internet 1.0 versus 2.0 versus 3.0. First, it was, let's make the same thing in the real world in the virtual internet 1.0 world. Then there's the 2.0 world, which is reimagining certain things. 3.0 is a whole nother thing. We have to think about that with materials as well, and how we design things, and not just try to replicate what we have with new technologies, but embrace those new technologies in all new ways to create new, much better things, and have different expectations as opposed to the same expectations that it's got to be like for like, which I think is absolute, it's a dead end.
Do you think our egos allow that we're truly solving this problem, that we really, because actually solving these problems means that we're going for peace, right? I mean, that means, are we ready to make peace? Are we as a species ready to leave behind this such a deep and like deeply rooted notion of competitiveness and being the best and outperforming the others? Do you think there is like a certain inbuilt paradox that it doesn't allow us to actually make peace with nature, but also with ourselves?
Right, exactly. So I think that's the dichotomy here. There's making peace with each other. I think that's human nature, dude. I don't see how that's going to change. But making peace with nature and embracing it, actually, this was like embracing fire or embracing electricity or whatever else. Once you do that, it's going to set economies and countries into a whole nother level when they do that in the right way. So to me, embracing nature is going to be like embracing a new type of technology, one that's always been there, but we finally decided we were going to take it on. And so to me, countries, companies, people who do that are going to be in the lead. And so you should be looking at nature as technology, and not just as the future. Now and luckily, for better or for worse, it's a double-edged sword of people competing against each other. But you know what? When we have competition, it spurs us all to be better in some way.
Can be a very good thing.
So if we can just get over the competition with nature and embrace it and use it and understand we need to live with it, in terms of circular, that is going to go much further to economic prosperity, abundance, proper abundance, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
And a much longer life cycle of us as a virus on this planet. Because people keep saying save the earth. It's about saving the humans. Come on, let's be clear.
Oh yeah.
The earth is going to be here long after.
And it was always about that. That's the basic fear that's the funny thing. This basic fear in us that nature would always defeat us. It's so deeply enrooted us that we do everything right now to exactly come to that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's always harmed us. We need to shelter ourselves, keep warm from the cold.
Kill all the predators, and I mean whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like we got to understand that instead of being that teenager or that single person, we're now at the top. We're really at the top of the food chain here. We got to be benevolent and work together with nature to make sure that it survives. Because if we don't have it, we don't have us. Yep. Right? And so we got to protect it versus the other way around now. So different way of thinking.
I think we covered it all, my friend. Very, very good. Collaborating with nature, that's the future.
And where possible, collaborate together, hopefully in a lot of places, because that's what it's going to take. So thank you very much. This was great. This is a fun discussion.
Yes, for the oceans, climate, and life.